Good day, everyone. This is 3D Create Tutorials. I'll be showing everybody here today how to create this actual grenade that I created here, and this will be a commentary as I go through the process. So come and join me. So just real quick, if anyone would like to follow along, I've uploaded the Plasticity grenade file and OBJ export file to my Patreon page in the link in the description below. I've also included the UV mapped OBJ object as well. Or if you'd like to just support my Patreon page, that would be really appreciated as well. I plan to start giving more support on Patreon to help 3D enthusiasts learn more from me on a daily, weekly basis, depending on the interest. Thanks. Now, back to the tutorial. All right, so first of all, I'm going to select this cube here and basically delete it. Don't need this. I'm going to start off with a circle. I'm going to bring this out, and we're going to snap it to like 2. If you don't have it snapped on, that's fine. You can actually hit tab and then just hit enter and then enter the 2. And that's basically what I start off with, 2 feet. And then I'm actually going to extrude this upward. So I'm going to hit the face selection tool and just bring this up. And this I'm going to put on the snaps. I'm going to bring this up like 4 sections, basically. All right, so I'm going to hit the OK button to accept it. And then I'm going to start working on the top piece here. So let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to select the line tool, Shift plus D to make a copy of it. And then I'm going to bring this up, like 1 section, 1 snap, pull it up to the top here. I'm going to also hit G and bring it up with the Shift D. So I made a copy of this basically. And then I'm going to take the snaps off and bring it a little closer, almost halfway between the foot. I'm going to select these 2 faces and hit the L key to loft them together. Then I'm going to actually scale this up with the S and S. And I'm going to go to the actual front view here. And I'm going to bring this right down to the side here with the G key. And basically use the F key to hit the actual center of this object to bring it into the other object. So it lines up properly. So I'm going to bring it in a little bit farther so it's actually into this other object. All right, so let's select this edge here and I'll pull this up with the fillet. Hit the OK button to accept. And the same thing on the top here. Not too much, just enough to have a little bit of curvature. I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to pull this a little bit more. I think it'd be a little bit nicer to have a little bit more of a smooth transition there. Like that would be good. Okay, hit the OK button. All right, so now I'm going to select these pieces around with the Alt key and the top piece. I'm actually hitting the Shift D to make a copy of this. I use this to help kind of add a little bit of a design on the top of this object. So I can select these 2 here with the line tool and delete those. And now that I have this here, I'm going to actually do some work on it. So I'm going to hit the actual circle, bring it out. Something like about there. And I want to cut the center of this out. So select this piece here and then hit the cutter. Select it and cut. Hit OK. And now we can just delete that little piece there on the top. So that's done. So let's go and select the line tool now and delete that. There we go. Now I'm going to use this part here to make it look a little different. Just to give some variations here. So go to the side view, now the top view. I decided to use the actual rectangle tool. Pull this out from the center out. I'm going to use this to help cut this section here. I'm going to make sure I hit the center of that area. I'm going to bring this down to like, I think around 3. That way I can get some variations of these parts. So now I've done that, I'm going to select the actual object itself. And then when I use the cutter, I'm going to select each of these. There's basically 3 of them to select. And then hit the OK button. Cool. Now we can actually select all these 6 sections here and delete them. And then I can select these lines with the line tool. Select each of these. And let's delete those. Cool. So basically got 6 pieces. Now that I've got those cut out and are formed, I'm going to go ahead and bring these down with the G key. But first I'm going to actually create some smaller little holes on top of each of these parts. So I centered it on this part here and I brought it in. I'm going to actually scale this down a little bit. I think it's a little too big. I'm going to try to drive basically around 3 of these cylinders on each section. And to do that, I'm going to use a radial ray, and I'm going to select the center here. And of course, it's way too little, 3 here, but if I start bringing this up so I get to a point where I'm actually got 3 per each section. So I went with 36. That way each section has like basically 3. And then I hit OK. Now I can go ahead and select these ones I don't need and hold the Shift key with the left mouse button and just start selecting all these. Trying to get it away so I don't select other things. And these as well. And that one. And delete those. Just going to select these other ones here. Delete those. And then you got one more on the side here. And delete. All right, cool. So now I'm going to select each of these parts, and then I'm going to start using the actual cutters. But first I'm going to select each of these sections. And I'm going to pull out each of these sections so that I can basically cut straight out of this part, these parts. So once I do that, hit the E key, and then I'm going to drive this downward, just like that. Hit OK. And I select the object selection mode here. Select each of these, and then select the 3, and then basically hit the Q. And we're going to do that for each of these sections here. So select the main section, the 3 cylinders, and hit Q. And keep going through the process all the way around each of these sections. I'm not going to try to be redundant on communicating the same thing over and over again as I go through this tutorial. So one time I'll explain something that if it's going to go around and around, I'm just going to say it one time. So you don't have to hear me talk about the same thing over and over again. I might actually add in some music as I go through the process. Cool. All right, so that's it for those. Now that I got these all done, I'm going to actually go in and select the lines. Well, first of all, I'm going to select the object and just bring these down. So select each of these. First, I want to go in and add a little bit of fillet on each of these corners. So let's select each of these. And there's basically 4 per each section. Each corner has an area I got to add in a little bit of an edge there. So let's go and get each of these on the bottom first. Just trying to focus on the bottom, and then I'll work on the top section as well. All right, so I got all those selected now. And now would hit the top ones. Just trying to continue to focus and drive this changes where they are needed. So I never really want anything too sharp. Actually, in my modeling, I like to have a little bit of curvature on everything so it looks better and reads better. So I got those all selected. I'm going to go ahead and pull on the yellow circle, just the fillet, and I'm going to pull this out. And one good thing about this program, it automatically has it set up for you in most cases. If it's not there, you just have to hit the B key. All right, so now I'm going to select these lines that I did those other sections. I'm going to do each of these as well. So I'll go around the whole thing and select each of these sections. Let's select the bottom as well. So that way I could do one fillet for the whole thing. Let's make sure I get each of them. And then let's pull it out. A little bit on the plus, like 0.004. Cool. All right. So now I got this selected. Just going to bring those down into the space. And we're going to be a little bit above the existing part just to give some variations. Zoom in a little bit, see what it looks like. Yeah, I think that looks good. I'm going to hit the OK button now and select these and delete them. Don't need those anymore. So now I'm going to pull out a circle on the top here, and kind of get it closer to the inner pieces here. And I'm basically creating a shape on the top here. So I'm actually going to be hitting Shift D of that and bring that up. And also scale this down with SS. Cool. Actually, I'm going to use the actual line tool here with the curvature spline tool. And I'm going to go to the side view and add in a side rotated angle. But first I'm going to hide all this stuff. I'll be able to see what I'm doing here. Go to the side, select the top, basically point there. Bring this down, and I'll make sure I hit the tab key. Tab key will help me drive this line so it looks better. It's easier to control with the tab. So let's bring it down. Add a few more lines here. Basically, I'm going to do a revolve on this section here, just to give it some nice looks to it. So I'm going to go a little bit out, and then bring it back in. Basically, I'm going to get a little closer, a little bit more control, and then back to the point. There we go. Now, it's really easy to go in there and just select those points if you need to adjust anything. I'm good with the shape, so I'm going to hit the revolve, hit the very center of the space and pull it upward, exactly straight up, and that way I get the shape that I want. I'm going to select this section here, the line, and delete it, and the one on the bottom. So we'll select the top line, and we're going to hit the patch tool, hit OK, and same thing on the bottom, hit the patch. All right, so cool, that's done. Now we have an actual solid. We can pull this out a little bit with a fillet, make a nice rounded top piece. And now we can use the rectangle tool to pull this out. All right, so that looks good there. I'm actually going to do a fillet on these. Take off the actual snaps. And of course on the plus to make it rounded, something like that. Okay, I'm going to select these bottom sections and hit the G key and move it down with the blue arrow, and then say OK. And then I'm going to take these sections on the top and kind of scale them in with the S key, just like that, just to give it some different variations in the actual design here. Okay, so select the line tool, and we're going to move this up into the space, right about there. And then hit OK, and then scale down a little bit so it fits in there a little better. Now it's in the center, so we're going to move this out. So again, hit the G key and move it out. All right, so about right about there looks good. Hit the OK button. Now select the face tool. I'm going to select that section there, and we're going to actually extrude this into the space. Go all the way through. Now, well, let's see what. Let's select this line here and delete it. All right, so let's select this again. Top view, radio array. And I'm going to go down to 5 sections, but it's actually really 10. Perfect. Now select the main one and then these other sections here. And we're going to hit the Q key. And then hit it OK. And that way it's nice and cut through. All right, so I'm on the top view now. I'm going to bring out a disk. Right about there. I'm going to Shift D this and bring it up. Hit the OK button, of course. And we're going to select the 2 faces here and hit L for loft. And then hit OK. And just delete these 2 pieces, these 2 lines. Now we can actually select the object and move it in, down into the space. And then hit OK. Again, hit the Q, Shift Q, so I can combine them into one. Now I'm going to select the top piece and delete it, of course. Select the line tool right here and basically do a fillet here. Hit OK. And then one right here as well. Let's select the top here and actually pull it out with the E key upward, and then the line tool. And we'll do a fillet on that as well. Select each of these round sections here, all the way around. All right, last one. Great, now let's go and pull this out on the plus. Can't do a lot here because that line is so close. Just gonna type it in, 0.001. That took, so we're gonna hit the OK. Maybe we can hide that section here. And just gonna select this piece inside here. Hit the delete key, get rid of it. Now we're gonna unhide it again. See how it looks. Go to the top here and select a disk again. Bring this out. Bring this down like that. Actually hit the edge of this. I'm going to create another disk to basically revolve around this section here. So click right on the edge there. Just bring this out a little bit. Use this to help cut into the space there, give it some variations here. So select the actual face of that. Actually, I did a sweep on it to make it easier. So now I've done that, select the main object and then select the object and then hit the Q key to delete it. Just to give it some different looks here. Okay, we can select the line here and delete it now. Cool. I'm going to select each of these sections here that I just created. We'll give it some, basically a fillet on all these. Let's go around the whole thing. Make sure you cover all sections. So I didn't show the fillet on this one. It's 0.003 or 0.004. So basically I hid the rest of the actual object and now I'm just at the cylinder that we originally created at the beginning of this. And what I'm going to do now is actually use the actual spiral lines here. So I'm going to select the center of this basically. And then I'm going to go to the side view here and I'm going to bring this down to about, take out the snaps here, to about right about here. And I'm going to pull this out to about right about there. Now, one of the things I've done in here is I've added in a little bit more details. So on the turns like that. And when I got finished with it, I reduced it down, but I think I'm just going to stay with, to save some time here. I'm going to go down to like 4.22. I'm going to bring it up a little higher. Actually, I'm just going to bring this down a little bit. I don't want a lot here. Just a little bit of a turn on the top section here. And I'm good with that, 307.102, hit OK. And then what I could do from there is basically go around to the side. And where this little section here is here, we can use that to drive the actual, just going to move this around a little bit. This is what I want to use, or this, whichever one is best. I'm going to go ahead and use the actual disk tool here. Pull this out just a little bit, not a lot. You could zoom in if you needed to. I'll do something like, basically like this. Again, it has to go around and it can't hit itself. So I'm going to scale this down just a smidgen because it might actually hit each other around the turns. So I'll say okay. Now what we could do is hit this actual face and we can use the sweep and use this to sweep around. Again, like I said, if you get it too close, you hit each other with the top and bottom section, and that will stop you from being able to do this. And just hit OK. Now to save some other time, I'm also going to go ahead and delete these sections here. And I'm going to select this edge and this edge here. I'm going to pull this out with a fillet on the plus. And again, I'm going to get real close to the end here so it's more rounded. Now, if you're having problems with it, just zoom in a little bit more. Make sure it's on the plus. I just want it nice and round on the tip here. Something like that would be good. Then hit OK. Now that we've done that, we can go in, select this, and then this. hit the Q key, and hit OK. Now we've actually deleted all the unneeded stuff. And then go back in and select this edge here with the Alt key, this one here, and we could pull this out. And we're going to do this on the plus. So sometimes, again, you got to go a little closer. Let's just pull this out a little bit less. We don't want it too much, about 0.011. Hit OK. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for the ability to add in this rotated spiral. And when you actually hide it, it looks really nice. So that's simple for that kind of effect. Okay, let's continue. All right, so I'm going to unhide the top piece now and kind of just modify this as needed. So we'll select the object selection and select the top section. And just adjust this a little bit. We'll scale it down a little bit. Hit the OK. Okay, so I'm going to select the bottom section here on the very bottom and actually do a chamfer. So let's pull this out with an angle. Not too much, just a nice little edge there is what I'm trying to get at here. Cool. Hit the OK once you did that, and then go back to the actual line tool and just add in, again, a fillet on both of these edges to make it look nice and soft. Just like that. All right, that looks good. Cool. Hit the OK button to accept. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select the rectangle selection or rectangle tool. And first of all, I'm going to actually add a line down the center of this object. All right, so let's bring it down all the way through, just like that, right click. And then I'm going to actually select the rectangle with the center section in it. And I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to make it a little bit wider. And again, I'm going to adjust this after I right click. Now that I have it here, let's start adjusting this. So first of all, we're going to select the actual edges with the point selection. So select the point selection and select all 4 points. And I'm going to scale this up a little bit. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to actually select the face selection and actually going to push this through into the actual or out of the object from the side here. Just to see what I'm doing. I'm also going to adjust this now. So I'm going to make sure I have the edges shown. And I'm going to select the edges here. I'm going to select all 4 of these. And I want to make this more of a rounded edges basically. So let's pull this out on the plus. Just like that. Hit the OK. Cool. Now we select the line and select this edge here and just bring this out on the plus. So it's a nice fillet. Hit the OK. All right. Now select the object and actually we're going to hit the G key and move this inward into the actual cylinder. Now we're going to select this section here and delete it with the delete key. And go to the side here. And we'll select the object selection. And I'm going to use the G key and move it up a little bit. Something like that. Hit the OK. Now let's shift D and bring this one down. So now we have 2 of them. So I ended up pushing this in just a little bit into the actual cylinder a little bit farther. I thought it looked better. And I'm going to hit the OK. Then I got both of those in here. Now I'm just going to test this out, see what this looks like. And I do a lot of testing just to see how things come out before I go throughout the whole thing and just add a whole bunch more stuff. So I'm going to pull this out and see what this looks like. I kind of like the form. And I do a lot of unhiding of lines just to see how things are turning out. So now I've done this, I'm going to hit and just cancel. I don't want this to be part of that. So I went and did Control Z a couple times just to get back to where it was. And I decided to pull this out a little bit farther outward just to give it a little bit more room to breathe. So again, a lot of times you just undo things, Control Z, and just bring this out a little bit more. I want to get more of that edge to kind of help control that pull. And I just think this will be better. Hit the OK. All right, cool. So now I'm going to do a radio ray on this with the same thing with 8 and hit the OK. And we'll select the the main cylinder first, and then I'm going to select the rest of these, hit Q, and then Q again, so that way they're all connected. And then I'm going to hit the lines on each of these connections all the way through. And again, fast forward this. All right, so I'm going to pull this on the plus, so we're actually going to have a nice fillet here. And again, I think I'm just going to pull it out enough so I have a nice separation there. I'm going to hit the OK with that. And I'm going to hide the lines to see what this looks like, just to see if I like what I see. I do like the actual forms. I think it looks nice. So I'm good with that. So I'm going to select the cylinder selection, and I'm going to go down to the middle here and pull out a circle. And this is where I'm going to create a crazy 8 basically. So that's why I call it crazy 8. And then I'm going to create again a box right next to this with the point selection in the middle and bring it into the space here. Again, I could adjust this after I lay it down. So something like that. Then I'm going to hit the G key and move that up or move this down. Let's move that into the space like that. Cool. Now we can select this and hit the mirror and select the center of this with the F key and just come out straight and then hit OK. All right, cool. Now I'm going to actually select the line here and this line here. And I'm going to hit the Shift and D, make a copy of it, Shift plus D. And then I'm going to bring those 2 new lines out, just like that, hit OK. I'm going to go to each of these, basically. I'm going to scale this in. But first I'm going to pull these 2 out of the way. And now I'll select this one and just basically go to the side view here. I'm going to S this inward so it gets smaller. Somewhere about there. Again, we could just type this in and copy this. We can actually add it to the other line. So Control C. So let's go to the line here and do the same thing. Go ahead and select it and go again to the front view here. And we can scale this down a little bit and then go back to the actual numbers here and just Control V in each of these. So you get that 0.79, just like that. All right, now I can hit the faces. So this one, and then hit L to loft. Hit the OK, and same thing with this one, L to loft. Right, and now we can select the lines here, all these, and we can delete those. And now select the object selection tool. First, we're going to actually do a fillet on these bottom pieces, so it's nicer when I cut into it. So let's pull this out a little bit, just like that. Hit OK. Now select the object selection, and we're going to bring those in. So use the move tool, and we're going to go into about right about there, into this section here. So hit the OK. We'll accept that. I kind of want to copy and just bring this down. So I hit Shift D and just brought it down with the G key, with the F. And now I got all these done. I'm going to select all 4. And now I'm going to hit the radio ray. So right there, again, hit the center. We're going to just stick with the 8 so that way they all line up properly. Just the squares for 8. Now I'm doing 8. Just keep the same setup, and that will actually make sure everything's centered. Okay, so now we can select the main object. And we can select the other sections here. And again, we can hit the Q and select OK. It'll take a second to go through the process. That looks good. I think that came out nice. All right, now so I got that little section there. I'm going to first go ahead and select all these sections around this whole thing. And again, fillet them all. So fast forward. So I'm going to now select the face selection tool, actually use the circle tool and pull this out right on that little section right there. I'm going to add some more detail into this part of the object here to give some interesting looks to it. So I got the circle here. I'm going to bring it out a little bit. And I'm going to actually hit the face tool here and extrude this out. let's extrude it out like that. Hit OK. Right now I can select this line here and basically delete it. And I'm going to pull this down with a chamfer. And I'm going to select this line here and this line and just kind of do a small fillet. Hit the OK. Now I'm going to select this section right here and do the actual. First of all, I'm going to hit a Shift D and I've got that face now. And I'm going to select the actual face selection and hit the E key to extrude into the space, just like that. All right, so now I'm going to select the main object there and actually the second object and hit the Q and then Shift Q, so that way I can manipulate this later. So go ahead and hit the OK. And we could actually delete this piece right here, and this piece here, I could actually select the actual face here, the face selection, and just move that in a little bit, just like that. Cool. Hit OK. Now we can select the inner part here and just do a little bit of a fillet here. So let's pull this out a little bit. All right, that looks good. And same thing in here. We just did a chamfer in there. So now I'm going to select these two sections here and hit the G key. I'm going to move them into the space, just like that. I'm going to do the mirror on those two sections right there and select the middle of this and pull it out. And basically use the F key to actually select that properly. Hit the OK. Okay, so now I got those selected. Let's go and select these again. All four of these pieces. And we're going to put another copy down below. So let's go to the side view here, or front view. And again, hit the Shift plus D. And then hit the F key in the center of that spot, and then hit the center of this spot and drop it. Hit the OK. Cool. Now we got those lined up. Now we can hit all 8 parts. So let's go and select all 8 of them. And we're going to do a radial array on this as well. Same thing with 8. So go ahead and select the radial array and select the center up on top. And again, select 8 and accept. All right, so now I'm going to select all of these parts and I'm going to cut into the existing object. So keep going around and select everything. Okay, now that I got these all selected, let's hit the Q and keep tool. So that way we don't delete it. And once it's done thinking, hit the OK button. All right, so now that's done, I'm going to go ahead and actually hide all these sections that I just put in here. And to do that, I'm just going to select the whole thing on the bottom here, and then actually Control select the actual main cylinder to make this easier. And then I'm going to also Control G all this to its own group. So that way it's just easier down the line to select things and unselect things. So I put everything into its own group. So now this is going to be much easier to go in and actually modify some of this. So I'm going to select all the lines here and just hit the actual B key so I could actually do a fillet on this. And again, it's only going to select the ones that are hard edged because the other ones have all been done already. So I'm just going to select this and kind of just move this out a little bit just to give it a little bit more of a nice smooth edge with a fillet. It's going to be on a plus. Something like that, 0.00155. And hit OK. Cool. All right, so now I'm going to go back to that little square that I created earlier, a rectangle. I'm going to pull this up a little higher. I'm going to kind of cut into this section to add a little bit of variation as well. So now I kind of pull that out a little bit. I'm going to hit the actual face selection tool and select it and pull it through. Hit the OK. And now I'm going to actually modify the edges of these things. So let's first select this and delete it. And then let's go and pull the edges out a little bit, just to give it a little bit more roundness into the part. So just get a little closer. I'm going to select all 4 sides here. And there we go. Now let's go pull this out on the plus. And that looks good. Let's go ahead and hit the OK. And let's pull this out just a little bit so it's not make sure that we cut that through properly. All right, so now we got the shape that we like. We're going to go ahead and hit the Shift D, and we're going to also copy this and bring it down. So hit the G key and hit the F. Again, select the center of that and bring it down to the center of this. Okay, now we got those two actual sections selected. Let's go ahead and do the radial array again. So again, we're going to stick with the 8. So select it, hit the top portion right there, and hit the OK button. Cool. Now select the main cylinder again, and we're going to hit the actual Shift key and hold it down to get all those objects, and then we're going to hit the Q key and then Shift Q, so that way we can actually modify this as we need it. So again, we're going to first make sure we got this selected, hit the Q, and then the Shift Q. And that way the object is kind of into it. And now we can go in and just select each of those little sections that we created. So let's go and select all of these. So basically we have 16 of these as a total. And we're going to go all the way around and select all of them. And we're going to basically delete these once we select them. So keep going all the way around until you got them all selected. Always delete half of them first and then, keep going around. Okay, so got all these now, hit delete. There we go. Now we still got the cut into this space, which is great. And we can actually do a little bit of modification. So here I can select these two. And then select the rest of these, basically. Again, I'm going to go all the way around this object, get all these selected again. All right, got them all selected. Now I'm going to hit the Control G, and I'm going to put this in its own group. So this way I can go in and kind of also add in another fillet on these things. So let's go select each of these now that we got everything else hidden. I'm going to actually hit the whole thing. I want to make sure it actually gets everything. So I'm going to select both sides, the top and the bottom. And I'm going to do that through each one of these. So I'm going to fast forward as I select everything. All right, so now I got this all selected. Just going to pull this out on the plus to get a nice smooth round fillet, and about right about there, 0.00335. And I got them all selected. All right, cool. That's it for that. So now I'm going to hide these other parts here. So let's go back to group 1 and do an Alt H and just unhide all those. And that looks really good. I like the way this looks. And again, there's little sections here. I can just change the color to them so they actually so they stand out basically. All right, so I'm actually bringing out a disc, and I'm actually going to start from the bottom here. I want to make sure I hit the center of this and pull it out. And I'm actually going to add in some more thickness to the bottom here. This is what my goal is. So I actually did a Shift D to bring that up. And I'm going to actually hit both of these faces, and I'm going to extrude those together with a loft. So hit L and hit OK. Now we can select these lines and just basically delete those. Cool. Now let's pull this out with a chamfer. And I want it to kind of get close to the edge of the bottom there. And go ahead and hit OK. And at the very bottom, I'm actually going to pull this out with an actual fillet. All right. So now I'm going to actually use the face tool and pull this out a little bit farther. I want to make it a little bit thicker and hit the OK. Now we could select the line and pull this out with a fillet. So it's nice and smooth. Hit OK. Now we're going to select this object with the object selection and this object. And we're going to actually merge these together with the QQ and hit the OK button. That's one great thing about this program. You could always add stuff and take stuff away. It's really helpful. I'm going to select this inner piece here and pull this out with a fillet again so it's smooth. All right, so what I want to do here is I want to actually pull this out a little bit. And this section here as well. So it gives it some separation between each other. And again, this one, it was with a chamfer. And also over at the bottom here as well. I'm going to actually select this with the Alt key and delete this. And let's try this again just to make it look a little bit better. I'll pull this out with a chamfer as well. So it has some more depth to it. Just see if that looks better. All right, so now I'm going to select the actual circle tool again. And I'm going to go to the front view here. And I'm actually going to use that to start bringing out another section down the bottom here. So I'm going to pull this out to about there. And then I'm going to actually use the line tool to connect to the very center of those spaces. And I'm also going to trim that piece there and make sure I select the edge here again, hit OK. And I want to extrude that basically. So pull this down straight like that. And that's going to help us kind of set this all up. I'm going to use the line here just to follow that now. And back and then over to there and then right click. Now that I got both of these sections laid out, I could hit the trim tool and cut that inner piece there. And again, I can select this whole thing now, but let's go ahead and delete this line here too, because that's in the way. So delete that. Awesome. Now we can select this face and we can push it through into the space and hit OK. All right, so now we select the line tool and kind of pull this out. Let's select those two and we're going to pull it on the plus. I think that looks nicer. And I'm going to select this piece here as the part of the actual object in the front. And let's delete that. Now I'm actually going to use the actual radio array and we're going to take it from the top. And we went with 8 basically. Get back to the front view here. So we're also going to add some more detail here to the center of this piece. We're going to bring that up a little bit. And again, select the center here, bring it out, let go. And I'm also going to select the points. Let's select those two top ones. And we're going to do a B key to hit a fillet there and hit the OK. So let's select the face here and we're going to pull this out just like that. Hit the OK. So select this, select that, and we're going to hit the Q. I'm going to go ahead and delete these pieces here. So I'm going to use the one piece to drive all these. So select all these except for the one and delete them. Now we can go back here and let's go ahead and do radio array of this piece so we can actually use that for the control of this whole thing. And again, select them all, but first select the base. And we're going to use the Q key. Basically what we've done here is we cut out a piece of that so we don't have to worry about, it's going to stay in the spot basically after we delete. So now hit the Q key and there we go. It's a pretty easy way to make different shapes that are kind of complicated. Okay. So now we're going to actually select this and bring this in a little bit. I'm going to Control C this so I can copy the distance. And again, I'm going to go around and do all these. So I'm going to fast forward this part as well. So in this part, I'm going to show you how to basically change the top of something. Like you want to take away some of this spiral section here. It's real simple to do. So let me show you how this works. So you could bring a line across the bottom of this, and we can go in here and just cut this with the cutter. And there we go. So that's cut. Now what we could do is we could actually take part of this and reduce it as well. So let's go and select it. I'm going to bring another line, or bring that line up with the G key. I'm going to try to line it up where I think it would be the best place to cut it. So somewhere about there. Yeah, about right there. I want to cut this right down the center of this, basically, maybe a little bit higher. I just want a little bit of the form on the bottom of this cap. So that way it looks like it's screwed on. I don't want it to have so much of a thread. So I'm going to select this and now actually use the cutter and we'll cut this out. Cool. So now we got that piece cut right there. We can delete that. And what we can now do is take this piece there and actually just hit the actual extrude and bring it right into the other object. This way we could actually join them together and it becomes one. It's very simple to modify things as you need them. So like again, I'm just trying to have a little bit of a curvature there, not a lot. And you got to play around with this a little bit just to get the look that you want. So hit the OK once you're satisfied with the look and select these two pieces again. And again, hit the Q, and hit OK. Cool. That's simple enough. All right, so let's go and start creating the handle. So I'm going to use the line tool to start off over here on the left side of the actual center of that grenade and bring it out. Add a couple different angles. And again, I could adjust these as I need to. And I'm just trying to get a good understanding of position of the line. So thinking about right about here. And I can always adjust later on. Okay, now I'm going to take these two points and actually do a fillet on them to make them more rounded. So I use the B key to do that. Now I select the line and do a Shift D to copy it and bring it out. Again, I'm just making it easier so I can create the actual handle itself. Hit the OK once I adjusted that location. I'm going to actually take some of these points and move them. So let's select this one here and kind of move it closer to the other point. Hit OK, and this one here as well. All right. I've done that. I can actually use the points on the bottom here to kind of just readjust this a little bit as well. I'm going to move this down, give a little bit more space there, and in. And again, I'm going to readjust this one as well. G key. Get closer so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm lining the blue line up with the actual point. All right, now I'm going to actually take this and add a line to it and one on the bottom from point to point. And this will give me an actual face. That's what I need here to start creating this. So let's select the edge here and this edge here, and let's join these. So again, after I join them with the J key, I'm going to now do a bevel on that with a fillet. So again, on the plus, same with this one here, just a little bit. Cool. All right, so now I got the shape that I really like. I'm going to use the face tool to pull this out. So extrude it to a certain area there. And again, we'll select the line and section and actually delete that now. I'll go to the other side view and we can select the object and we could actually move it with the G key and with the F key for the center, and then place this on the center. This makes it easier to line things up. That did not work out. Let's do it again. G key, F, Gotta make sure I'm on the center of this object here. Now, if you're having problems with this, you could always move the object off to the side, and it just makes it easier to make sure you line it up properly. So again, G key, F, now we got the center, and now we can select the center here. That's the easiest way to kind of line things up sometimes. Hit the OK. Cool. All right, so I went to the top view, and now I'm going to do some cuts on this. And basically pulling this out straight ahead, and then at an angle. And pull this back up a little bit more, just to give it some different shapes. About right there. Yeah, I think, that looks good right there. And then pull it out again, and then up. And then all the way through. And I'm going to mirror this to the other side now. Here's the mirror line. Hit OK. And now select the object, and we're going to use the cutter. So we can cut those two lines out of that section there. And now delete these outer pieces. This looks a lot better that way. Real simple to do. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take off the actual bevel on this. I want to adjust the actual edge here first. So go and select both of them, just delete them. I'm going to select these two edges first and just adjust those first. I just think it would look better this way. So I'm going to select these two, pull this out as a chamfer, hit OK. And I think that looks a lot better. And then I'm going to select these four sections here. And again, I'm going to use the B key to create a fillet with the plus. All right, so now I'm going to use the line tool and actually cut out little sections of this handle. So I'm going to bring this over to the side here and kind of just get a nice little beveled edge here. Kind of like a nice little cut. I'm trying to line this up so it's similar to the other side. And now we connect it. First there. Okay, cool. Now that I got that, I can actually go in and kind of adjust these lines. So let's go and straighten this up a little bit. Make sure it's actually level with the other line. And then hit the OK. And then again, I could adjust this a little bit as well. G key. And about right there. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be clean. So just going to select these 2 points here. And again, hit the B key. And we're going to make this a little bit more rounded. Just like that. Hit OK. And now we can actually select it and use the mirror tool here in the center and opposite side there and hit the OK. Now I select this handle and use the cutter and then select both of these sections here to cut those sections out. There we go. And hit the delete key. And that's it for that. I'm going to select the line tool and start cleaning up the edges here a little bit. So I'm going to select all 4 of these sections here. Make sure I get the right ones. And these 2 on the side here. And again, we're going to pull this out with a fillet on the plus. And while we're here, I might as well do these as well on the top. Go around, select everything I need. It would be easier if I had the line shown so I could actually select these easier, but anyway. All right, so we got that one right there still. We got all those. Okay, so we got them all. Now let's go ahead and pull this out. Again with the fillet on the plus. Hit OK. So I'm going to bring this in a little bit closer to the center. Hit the OK. I think that reads better that way. Okay, now I'm going to select the actual rectangle tool and pull out a piece here. I'm going to cut out a section here. So again, put that out, and I'm good with that. I'm going to redo this a little bit. I'm going to actually bring out a line here. And I'm actually going to cut it in a little bit, just to kind of follow the existing shape. Give it some variations of look here. And bring it down. And again, I'm going to cut it back inward, about there, and then back to the center. I think that looks good. Let's zoom in a little bit here to straighten this up. Great. And then I'm going to mirror this over to the other side. So hit the mirror. First select the actual line and use the F key to bring it down. And make sure it's straight. Just like that. Great. Hit OK. Now we take these two lines and use the J key to combine them together. And now we select these points, all of them, except for the ones in the center. Don't need those selected. And let's pull this out on plus. Give it some nice smoothness around that. All right, now I can actually use the face tool, select it, and pull this through all the way through the actual handle. Hit the OK. And now we can actually select the handle with the object selection and select this piece. And this time I'm going to use the Q and then Shift Q, because that way I'm going to actually keep the part inside. So let's take this piece on the outside and delete it, and this piece and delete it. And now I got the inner piece. This will be a separate object within the object, which is my goal here. Now I select the line here and actually do a fillet. So let's pull this out so it looks nicer. And it actually defines the piece. So again, a little bit on the plus here. Not a lot, just a little bit. And I think that looks good. And same on the other side. Again, on the plus to make it look nicer. Okay, hit OK. All right, so that's it for that piece. All right, so now we can actually select the edge of this handle, and we're going to actually add in a fillet on both sides. So select both sides. Let's pull this out on the plus. So it's a nice smooth roundness. All right, so now I'm going to select the face on the top here and just pull this up. I'm trying to kind of break this up a little bit so it has a different form. And I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to select the line tool here and select the center or this little piece here and pull this out on the plus. Not too much, just about there. And I think that looks good. And also on this edge here, I'm not going to be able to do the edge here because I have the fillet around the shape. So what I need to do, cancel, is I need to select this edge. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and go out and actually cut this out. So I'm going to use the line tool and bring this across and use that cutter. But first I'm going to actually make this more rounded here. So select this point, pull it out with a plus, and hit OK. And I can use that to cut this piece out. So go ahead and select the object selection and the cutter, and select the line and hit OK. And then we delete that piece on the top there. Now we can select this little edge here and just pull this out on the plus. So we got a nice round form there. Great. Now I probably should have not put the fillets on the edges on the whole handle, because then it's going to be complicated to reconnect them all together again. But just something to think about before you go too far on something. All right, so now I'm going to the top view. I'm going to do some more cutting. So I'm going to use the line tool again. And I'm going to pull out a line over here. I'm just trying to give some variations of the shapes. So again, bring it out straight or to the side a little bit. Just make it more centered here. Now zoom in, get the right angle. And again, we can use the mirror tool here. Make sure you get the line selected with the F key, bring it out. Select both sections here and join them with the J key. And again, we can select these points now, all 4 of them, and then hit the B key. We can pull this out on the plus, just like that, and then hit the OK button. Cool. Now we can select the handle itself, right there with the selection, object selection, and now we got that selected. Hit the line, hit OK. And then we can cut that piece out, just delete it. All right, just to get some more shapes here. Okay, so now I'm going to select these little sections here with the face selection around this whole thing. I'm going to do a Shift D, make a copy of that. And then I'm going to scale this down. So bring it down and a little bit toward the X. And I think that looks good. Just pull it out a little bit with the G key. And then we're going to actually create a thickness to this. All right, so now I'm extruding this with the E key basically. And I'm going to go to the top view and I'm making sure I actually have the F key selected and down the center of this and pull it straight out. This way the line goes exactly straight. As you pull it out, make sure it's straight. And then let go. And now we created the shape. Hit the OK. But first, I'm going to do these sides first. This way these are done properly. I missed one side over here. So I'm going to pull this out as well. Plus, now hit OK. All right, now we can do the top sections. We first got to get all the sides done always first. And let's pull this out on the plus. Again, a little bit of a, this time we're actually going to do a chamfer. Give a little different design inside. I'm going to select this object and this object, and I'm going to hit the Q key and basically cut that section out. All right, so I'm going to select these inner sections here, these 4 sections, not the one on top, but the inner pieces. So I got to deselect that one. And those 2 pieces there. So deselect that. And we got those 4 selections now selected. And I had the bottom one accidentally, but that's okay. Just going to pull this out a little bit on the plus. There we go. And now it's done. A little bit more. I think that's going to look nice right about there. And again, it did the nice side around the edge there. Hit the OK. All right, so now I'm going to fix this edge here, but we got a little bit of a fillet there. So I need to get rid of that first before I can actually clean this up a little bit. I want to make it a little bit wider of a bevel. So let's go both sides and just delete those edges that are in there. Again, we have, it's hard to see these, but there is some fillets there. Always look for those things if you're having problems trying to do a fillet and it just won't work. A lot of times it's because you got 2 sections in there. So now this one worked. So I'm going to copy this, Control C. And then I'm going to go over to the other side and do the same exact thing. So again, select the line. Well, actually, it was already selected, so it did what it needed to do. Cool. So we got both of those done. Didn't realize I had that shifted on 2 objects. Now there's an issue right here. This hard line to a curvature. I need to select these sections here. The actual, where I created the actual fillet. I need to go in there and manually do this again. I should have not actually did these fillets earlier on. Again, things that you learn as you go. So select this with the Shift key. Make sure we get all of them. So fast forwarding through this. All right, so now I got them all selected. I'm going to actually hit the Delete key and basically delete all these. Now I'm actually going to go in and select the line again and see if it selects it all. So that means I got them all. Now we can pull this out on the plus. So get a little bit of a nice smooth fillet on the edge of this. This way it doesn't look so harsh on the edges. And like I said, it's very, very minute. 0.003 looks good. All right, cool. All right, so now I'm going to select the disk section here. And I'm going to go to the top and add another, like a support holder on top here. So I've actually pulled that out, and I'm actually using the G key to pull this up now. And I'm actually going to select the face here, and I'm going to pull this into the actual object. So pull it in, and I'm going to hit the OK. Cool. Now I'm going to select this object here and this object and hit the Q, but keep object. I want to make sure I keep that section there. So let's select this line and scale it down. So that size looks good there. I'm actually going to select this edge and do a fillet on it, and not too round, but just a little bit. And I'm going to hit the OK. And now I'm going to actually select the object selection, and we're going to hit the G key, and we're going to move this down into the space, something like that. Hit OK. Now let's go ahead and select the actual face selection and select this top small little circle. And we're going to pull this into the actual top piece here. And again, I'm going to select the actual object selection, select that, and then select this and hit the Q and hit OK. And now we select the line here and pull this out with a fillet or a chamfer actually. And I'm going to select both of these sections as well and do a fillet on those. Cool. So hit OK. And now select the line and delete it. And we could also modify this inner piece here. Just pull this out with another fillet. About there. Looks good. Hit OK. All right, so now I'm going to use the object selection and select the actual top piece here. I'm actually going to move this into the space. So hit the G key and let's bring it into the actual round section here. I'm going to create this to actually connect into this. Hit the OK. And again, I'm going to move this down again. So G key, move this into the space like before. Hit the OK. And now I'm going to take this object first. So see what I'm doing here. I'm going to hit that first and that second. And I'm going to keep tool and go ahead and hit OK for the boolean of that. And again, I'm just trying to get it so it looks like it fits into this space. So now I can select this edge here and just pull this out a little bit. All right, so now I need to adjust this little part here. So select the object again and select this piece here and just bring it down with the G key. It didn't get moved with the other part, so let's bring it down on the Z axis, right about there. Hit the OK. All right, so I want to go to the side view here. I need to create basically a pen section here. So go to the right side. Let's go ahead and pull out a rectangle and place it right there. And we're going to modify this a little bit. So I'm going to move this out a little bit so it's away from the edge. And then I'm going to adjust this. So again, I'm going to pull this out first with the face selection, bring it into the space, something like that. And it has to be some type of device to pull out the thing so we can actually use the grenade properly. Hit the OK. I'm going to adjust the top piece here. So select these two lines here, this edge and this edge. This time we're actually going to do a chamfer. So let's pull this out with a chamfer, something like that. Hit the OK. And the bottom, a little bit of a chamfer, or actually we'll do a fillet here, a little bit different. And then I'm going to select these 4 sections here. Go to the side and select each of these. And again, I'm adding a little bit of fillet here. So let's get a little closer, pull this out on the plus, hit the OK. All right, that looks looking good. So select this section here and delete it. All right, so now I'm going to select this section and this section and hit the Q. And I'm also going to keep tool and say OK. And I also need to select that object and this object and again hit Q. And again, keep tool, hit OK. So that way it kind of goes into both forms. One thing I want to do here is I want to add a little bit of an edge here. So again, a little bit of a fillet there. So it looks like a separate part. One thing I want to do is I want to round this tip of this piece a little bit better. I just think it's too sharp for my design. I'm going to go to the side view. I'm going to use the line tool or actually I'm going to use this to cut the tip of this thing is what the goal is here. I want to make that more rounded on the tip. So I'm going to go and select this object and select this cutter and we'll cut it right there. And that way we have a nice rounded edge. So select those and delete them, both of them. All right, that looks nice. And I'm going to select both of these parts again and hit QQ so they can reconnect each other. Simple to do. All right, so select the line. Let's go and delete this. All right, so let's select the face here. All three sections. And I'm going to hit just pull it in basically to get a little bit more roundness to it. That looks better. Select OK. So I'll select the line tool now and select this whole thing with the Alt key and just pull this out on the plus. A nice little fillet on the edge there to make it more smooth. All right, that's looking really good. Now let's go ahead and select the circle and we're going to pull this out right there. Not too big. And we're going to use this to cut into this object. So select it and then hit the cutter. Select the cutter and then cut through. Hit OK. Now we can delete that piece. Great. Now select the line tool and let's delete that. Right, so we still need to create the hook, the section that we pull the actual pin out with. And to do that, I'm going to actually use the circle tool, circle line. First, we're going to go to the object and hide all this stuff. So hide all these. They're just going to be in my way. Same with these. And this one as well. So I can just focus on this pin section here. I'm going to go to the side view here. Select the circle. I'm going to pull out a circle. I'm kind of trying to place it about there. And I'm going to hit the G key and move it into place. I want to make sure that the center of that is kind of at the center of this spot. Hit the OK. Scale it down a little bit. I think it's too big. And I'm going to move it with the G key back into space here and go back to the side view. And just kind of line this up in the center of this. So I'm going to select the line here across just to get an understanding where the center is. Now I can select this line. Actually select the line. And we're going to hit the F key and select the top and then center off the line here. Perfect. Now it's perfectly centered. Now go to side view. And here I'm going to create more of a, not a circle, but more of a oblong circle. So again, I'm going to create another circle down here. And now I'm going to use the lines to kind of connect this center to this center and this center to this center. Just like that. Now that I got all those done, we can actually start using the trim key. So let's select all those and these as well. There we go. Perfect. Now we can actually use the selection and we'll actually go ahead and select all these and just join them with the J key. That way this will work better. And I'm going to use the circle tool again. I'm going to bring it right to the edge here and pull it out. Not too big. About there. Now I'm going to select the face selection and select the smaller circle. And I'm going to hit the actual sweep and select that line. There we go. Now we can select this section here and delete it, as well as the center section. So we select that as well, delete it, and the inner line, delete that as well. Yeah, I think that looks really good. I think I'm going to move this first so it's easier to select it. So hit the G key, bring it down so it actually is touching. And I'm going to adjust this a little bit more when I can see the other part. So right about there. All right, so I'm going to unhide everything so I can work this a little bit better. I must still move this up just a smidgen more. Make sure it actually is past that edge. I don't want it to be digging into that at all. And I'm going to unhide everything so I can see what I'm doing with the actual piece here. And I see it's definitely into the spot here. So I need to go to the side view here and rotate this basically So I'm going to hit the R for rotate and then hit the F key. I'm going to actually place this right at the center of this and then bring it down to the bottom here and just pull this up. I want it to actually lean against the very edge of this. So that way it looks like it has the weight of that onto the actual piece. So it's like loose, basically. I think that conveys that look. All right, so another thing I want to do here is I want to take this piece here and just select it, Shift D it, and I'm actually going to scale this down. So bring it downward and then in a little bit. And then I'm going to say okay, and then I'm actually going to take the points here. But first I'm going to select it. And actually I'm going to select the object selection. And I'm going to move this back a little bit. So hit the G key. So I can actually maneuver this a little bit better. And now I'm actually going to select it and actually extrude it. And now I can actually, since I already got that face, I'm going to select the line tool here and select these edges here, all four. And again, I'm going to do basically a fillet there. So it's nice and rounded. All right, so pull this out a little bit more, about right about there, into space. Then I'm going to hit the actual object here and the other object, and again, hit the Q key, and we're going to delete that out. Okay, this is pretty much it for this grenade that I created. I'm going to also do a little fillet here, and that's it for that. Thank you for joining me. Subscribe. Thank you.